In a first for many seasons, Mick Claridge leads the points. Despite lacking a win, his consistency has put him at the top after 2 races. But even he has admitted he likely won't be fighting for the crown this season due to attendance. Which of the many fast drivers will take his place? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 3 of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legend Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Roush Racing driver Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director, Bobbert O'Brien, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Summit Point is quite a tiny track for Formula One machinery. Let's get a closer look at it with our track guide. Welcome to Summit Point Raceway. Once the stomping grounds of IMSA and Trans Am vehicles thundering through the West Virginia mountains, this circuit is now mainly used for club racing and performance driver training. Situationed a couple hours west of Washington, D.C., there are actually 2 entirely separate circuits that can be tackled here on the iRacing service. The main circuit is just shy of 2 miles in length, including 10 turns, and can be chopped off into the short version, which has 9 turns and only 1.5 miles for a lap. The Jefferson Circuit is its own 1.1 mile piece of pavement with a mere 7 turns and uniquely can be run in reverse. Both tracks are astonishingly narrow and provide quite a technical challenge. On the main course, the most popular place to pass is down into the first corner hairpin. While some drivers may try a brave dive into turn 5, the frighteningly fast kinked entry makes it prone to things going wrong quickly. Between there and turn 9, it's essentially a single file affair with nothing but tight and twisty bends snaking their way around. The Jefferson Circuit isn't used as often, and because there are a few straights long enough to get a run on someone, most drivers are forced to wait for a mistake to pounce on. Otherwise, qualifying will be key. Believe it or not, IMSA's GT class raced here in the late 80s, and even Can-Am stopped in back in 86. While it probably sees much more competition here in the virtual world, it's easy to see why plenty of real drivers love to take their vehicles out to try and tackle this historic Appalachian venue. Well, like I said, it's a bit of a small track, Joey, but it's a staple here in the Lotus 49s.
A smaller track indeed, a little bit of a lower speed with the exception of that front straightaway that is deceivingly long here, but right away, turn number 1, probably your best passing opportunity given that there's 10 turns just under 2 miles in this Summit Point Raceway. But the thing about turn number 1 is that it continues quite long into turn number 2, so you just got to make sure that you get the majority of that turning done in the first half of the corner and then are able to put the power down. West Bend, turn 3 there, looks pretty straightforward, but very easy to pick up the understeer there and go off the track on driver's right side. Also, the chute leading down into turn number 5, another very tricky area of this racetrack. You're going to be off of the gas, on the brakes, and you got to make sure to hit your brake marker down there as there's several changes of direction. Also, the track surface down there, not very even. Through the carousel and the S's 6, 7, 8, and 9, the slowest sections on this racetrack, and then it's really accelerate up through the gears. The final turn, Paddock Bend, also known as turn number 10, a very, very fast sweeping right-hander, but you got to make sure to keep it on the racetrack as it leads out onto that long front straightaway.
Indeed, and of course, like I said, the championship has really begun underway, and Mick Claridge up at the top. It's only by 2 points over Jorge Nieva, Oya Zamaloa, and Jordan Gronkowski also chasing behind him. But it's more of a question of who is going to be sticking around for the full season, because some of the drivers are just kind of in and out. But Nieva, Zamaloa, certainly 2 that'll likely be competing every round. Seb Tixier as well. Togo Hisada down in 7th really does not represent because he had a bit of an unfortunate accident back at Charlotte and was fast both there and the Red Bull Ring. So expect him to start to climb back up with some good results. We also have an F2 championship as well here, Joey.
The only difference is the driver's I rating between the F1 and F2 driver standings, and right now it is Kevin Verbruggen leading the way 20 points over Rodrigo Miranda. Kurt Clapper in the 3rd place position, Jonathan Jordan in 4th, Yoshihara Hashimoto there inside the top 5 as well, and We got to remember, everything is just getting going here, Joe. We're only on round 3 of this 12-round season, so I expect all of these names to really shake it up, but I see some regulars in here from past seasons. Kurt Clapper, Jan Steven, Timothy Porter, Arnold Cook, they are all regulars. Even Kevin Verbruggen comes out here quite a bit.
Indeed, and taking a look at the Cup of Nations, as we've seen last couple seasons, honestly, Spain is up at the top. The United Kingdom, because of McClarid's consistency, has got themselves within a single point of them. Singapore, Seb Tixier and Gary Ho, the two most frequent contributors on that one, are actually tied with the U.S. for the third position. With Japan, they're trailing in 5th. They've seen a bit of an influx recently. I wonder how much of that is Togo Hisada coming in and really proving himself, maybe bringing some friends along. But like we just heard, it's still early, so it could easily change around throughout the season. Well, it's a short track, like we said. Joey, how many laps are we up for?
29 laps are what the competitors are going to be doing today for round 3 of 12 in the season. As always, open setups. That means the competitors are free to adjust those nuts and bolts underneath. If you have a little bit of understeer, we'll tweak and tune exactly how you like it. Drive-through penalty at 17x, a disqualification at 25x. And as always, Joe, with these Lotus 49s, it's all about limiting the damage versus the incident points. There's plenty of areas to run off the track here, but with the new damage model, you just don't want to tangle those wheels up.
Absolutely. And qualifying could be important here today with how tough it is to try and overtake. And Adrius Valenteus is back once again. And well, he was on the pole until Mick Claridge has just pipped him by 0.06 of a second. It is tight. Zamaloa is behind by about 1/4 of a second. And Togo Hisada, I think, just took his second lap and puts it very close on the outside of that second row. This is going to be tasty up at the top. They are really tight within another.
Well, I've got to go back all the way to, I think, 11th, maybe even 12th place before we have a car that's into the 109 lap time bracket. So it's extremely close up at the front. But, Joe, not even up at the front. I think I saw we had over 40 cars here signed up today.
Yeah, not by far not the most we've had at this track before, but what it is a lot of cars compacted in to this little circuit, and it's going to get frantic, especially with traffic, which might be a bit of a talking point. I've heard some of the drivers mention that there's a few newer drivers showing up that are just kind of learning the ropes about how to let some of the faster guys back, and this is going to be trial by fire today if that's the case.
We don't really do a keys to the race per se, but I'm going to agree with you that we're doing 1:08 lap time here. Lap traffic is going to be a huge factor in this race. We're going to hit it pretty early, and we're going to hit it very, very often. The other thing, this is a small track. Look at how narrow it is. In a lot of these areas, there's only one lane to get around this racetrack. So if you have an unfamiliar driver that's a little bit off the pace in front, you just have to tiptoe around it and be extra careful.
Now, I wonder, as Nieva finishes his second lap, is he going to be one to watch out for here because of that? Consistency has really been his strong suit the last few seasons. He's taken a couple wins in his career here in the Grand Prix Legends Series, and his second lap is 1:08.4, and that's going to put him up to third. Well, maybe the speed is starting to become a bit of a strength for him as well, because he has been up towards the front of the field lately, and this could be a track that will play to him if everybody else gets into trouble and he manages to slide through it.
And when you look at that championship, you mentioned the consistency. He is just so good out there on the racetrack when it comes to the actual race time. He usually doesn't put his car in danger. He is fast enough to be inside of that front group and claim those wins. And it seems to be hitting his stride right about here, Joe, is that things are clicking for Jorge Nieva.
Indeed, and I was kind of wondering if I should mention that it's not that his consistency is the thing anymore. He's just darn fast, and looks like our grid is set for today. So Mick Claridge on the pole is flanked by Audrius Valenteus. Can he keep up with him today is the question, because he wasn't able to at Charlotte. Jorge Nieva will try and challenge both of them. They're starting from third, and Oye Zamaloa, also a bit overdue for his second win in the series, is going to be starting from fourth. Togo Hisada, he'll begin from fifth, so he's on the back foot, but he's also been extremely fast this season. Could he try and challenge those top guys? Laust Olsen will start from P6, and Seb Tixier will be seventh, as Kevin Verbruggen will begin in P8. Leo Sequeiro will be ninth, and Gary Ho, great qualifying for him, starting in the top 10.
Bill Tyler will be in the 11th place position. John Olsen next to him in 12th. Jeff Saunders in 13th. Steve Morris here in 14th. Marco Antonio Lopez Salgado on row number 8, along with David Rossi. Robert Plumley in 17th. Matthew Maudsley 18th. Jari Sakari Raukonen in the 19th, and Michael Grissinger in 20th.
Rolly Wallbank starts 21st, followed by Mitch Heller in 22nd. Then it's Jan Steven in a P23. Rodrigo Miranda will begin in 24th. Arnold Cook in the quarter century mark. And then on his outside, it's Andre Bruno. Jorge Izquierda will be 27th. Cam Porter starts 28th today. And then it'll be Alan Graham in 29th. And Don Peak with an excellent qualifying in 30th.
Jem Matson here in 31st place. Jonathan Jordan in 32nd. Alejandro Fernandez in 33rd. Yoshiharu Hashimoto in 34th. Timothy Porter starting out in 35th. Joaquin Burgos in 36th. Benjamin Hackison back in 37th. Gary Quellen 38th. Kirk Clapper 39th. Eugenio Massa in 40th. And then Paul Ferrer, the 41st car on today's grid.
All right, so as we get ready to go for this one, the cars are just about all lined up already. They do not want to sit around as we take a look. I think that's both the Porter brothers, actually, that we're looking at. Indeed it is. I'm getting confirmation. So Tim and Cam ready to go. They've been a staple for a number of seasons now here in this series. How can they perform with both of them out at this track? Valenteus has given it some time before he lines up. Now he plops himself onto the grid, so we should get that green flag up and ready any moment now here at the front. I do see that Arnold Cook and Gary Quellen are making everybody wait a little bit longer. I wonder if they're going to try and start from the pit lane to avoid some of the chaos that tends to happen down into turn one at this track. There we go. Looks like everybody is now ready as the flag is held aloft and the lights are up. Green flag is out, and they start to accelerate across the line. It's a good start for Mick Claridge on the pole, but a poor start for Valenteus as Nieva's got a shot at trying to take second place. Coming down to the first corner, somebody off already in the background there, going through the grass. Now as they siphon down into the first corner, it is very orderly, and it looks like we're going to get through clean.
And still about 2 by 2 for the most of the field here, but Mick Claridge leads Valenteus. Jorge Nieva in the third place, Togo Hisada fourth, Oye Zamayoa in the fifth place as we stream through the bend and down into the chute. You got to be really careful right here. Get on the brakes with these cold tires, stream it through one of the narrowest areas of the racetrack.
Like you said, this is a very slow portion of the track, so everyone's going to have to tiptoe. These cars have a lot of power, and they don't like to be in the low revs. So as they try and work their way through the S's onto the back straight, who is going to get the good run down towards Paddock Bend? Seb Tixier on board with him, watching from seventh. He's said himself that he's going to try and do this without much practice. He's just coming in, getting into the car, and getting going.
He's chasing Laust Olsen right now, and Laust had a terrific start there. He's still hanging out in the 6th place position, and we've already completed one lap here at Summit Point, so dive it off into turn number 1. Oh, big-time lockup from Zamayoa right there in the white car. We're seeing Laust Olsen now try to tuck down to the inside. Not going to get the position, but Zamayoa definitely with a big-time lockup.
So many times too wide here coming into the wagon. Bend goes south, and somebody has gone off track. For Bruggen is into the kitty litter. Looks like he's going to get his festive car turned around and back on the circuit, but he'll lose a lot of track position.
I can report there was no contact in that one, just a little bit of a self-spin as we check in with our leaders up here. watching Jorge Nieva currently give chase to Togo Hisada. Now, Togo has moved up 2 positions from where he started, so he's got the visor down, or maybe the goggles down, Joe.
Exactly. And man, he made quite the move down into turn 1 to get by Jorge Nieva. He came from a long way back, but they're back to that part of the circuit now. And it wasn't a great exit, but it looks like he's managed to get the wheels turning. And Hisada is going to try and run away from Nieva down into the first corner. Meanwhile, Valenteus versus Claridge. This is one I've been looking forward to, especially with Mick having the upper hand in track position, but doesn't look like he's got the upper hand in speed.
Well, you see Valenteus just kind of showing the nose, presenting the car in whatever mirror, whatever inside mirror he can show here to Mick Claridge. Dive down into turn 4, 5, and 6 now. And you see, really, this racetrack kind of feeds into some defensive lines through here. So if you're the leader, it's actually quite easy to cover off some of these corner entries.
That turn 5 left-hander, Kevin Brown, one of our commentators from the early years, dubbed it yard sale corner, just because of cars winding up off at the side of the track so frequently. And with the new damage model, it might really look like a yard sale with parts everywhere. But they managed to navigate it safely so far. I don't think we've had any major offs for cars throughout the field yet. Another good run here from Valenteus down the main straight. Will Claridge defend because he's got a good toe, and Adrius could try and take it, but no, he does not stick his nose in.
But you see that purple fast lap from that number 1 car giving chase to Mick Claridge. So you're right. Valenteus just has all sorts of speed right now and is trying to get around this yellow number 3 car of Mick Claridge. Where can he do it? We're approaching that turn 5 that we were just talking about. And Joe, I think my favorite line through this turn 5 is, don't even turn left here. You can continue straight and reconnect with the track a couple corners later.
You won't just get a black flag. You'll get a stop and go, actually, I've discovered through some games that some friends and I have played through there. So, yeah, you don't want to just keep going straight or else you're going to pay hefty for it. As Laust Olsen back here in 7th is down 1, thanks to Seb Tixier managing to sneak by him. He's also got Leo Sequeiro just behind him right now, and they're coming up towards Paddock Bend themselves, but they'll stretch apart as nobody really gets the leg up over one another.
Out onto the front straightaway. We were talking about how small this track is, and actually Valenteus right behind Mick Claridge, all the way defensive going into turn number 1. See if Mick Claridge can get this car stopped, which he does here. But, Joe, I was seeing 180 miles an hour on the front straight from these cars.
Oof, I cannot imagine at this track, especially during this era. I don't know if they've widened it since then, but this is a scan from 15, 16 years ago at this point. It's from quite a while ago, and it was narrow back then. Valenteus is going to have to work hard to try and find an opening because no doubt Mick is going to be defending anywhere he can.
While this battle is raging on, I want to stay right here for our race lead, but Togo Hisada has actually fallen off just a little bit. There's about a 1.5 second gap behind Valenteus to Togo Hisada. And I got to say that Jorge Nieva, he is starting to turn up the heat as well.
Well, not only that, but Zamaloa is climbing all over the back of him. And look how close it is between Oye and Jorge here as they come into Paddock Bend. He just needs a good exit, and he might have a chance coming down into turn 1. You can see these cars bouncing around over on this old surface here at this track, especially with the suspension travel that these machines have. A big look to the inside by Zamaloa does not produce anything. And look at that. We saw another attempt by Valenteus up ahead of them. He almost got side by side with Mick.
And Seb Tixier, that blue car, steals the fastest lap of the race, so we'll have to keep an eye on them. But the reason why Zamaloa is so close is because this last lap in turn 5, Jorge Nieva had a huge look at Togo Hisada and didn't quite get that move done. So I have a feeling Nieva might have a little bit more speed, might try to want to go hunt down that win.
See if he can manage that, though, because it's certainly a hornet's nest in here right now. Any little mistake is going to open doors. Seb Tixier in amongst them, multi-time champion now, 3-time champion, is going to try and grab any opportunity that he can as they come up to the final turn one more time. And Hisada with the advantage that he's got, is going to try and stretch his legs out, and it's about 1.5 seconds between them. In the background, I thought I just saw Gary Ho go off, though.
I think you're right. The number 10 car is falling down the order, and there you see the classic purple helmet of Gary Ho on the front straightaway, recovering from that off. See exactly what happened here. I expect this to happen at turn 10, the very, very final corner, and this is such a fast turn. It's really easy to carry too much apex speed and just simply drift out wide, and that's exactly what it looks like there. Just too much speed into a fast corner.
Very lucky both the cars behind him were heads up in that situation. They snuck underneath with about just a car's width to try and get through there. And off he went into the gravel. Back to our leaders, Claridge versus Valenteus. At about a second and a half ahead of Togo Hisada, but not able to run away. So they can't battle too much here, Joey, because if they start to go side by side, Togo's going to catch them in a heartbeat.
Well, and honestly, if they don't settle it out pretty soon, I'm looking at the back of the field. They're going into turn number 3 right now, so probably 2 more laps, and we're going to have a whole different variable that we haven't even seen yet.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, that could really check things up. If they get backed into that group, then suddenly we've got about a 6-car fight for the lead. In fact, I think Zamaloa just got by Nieva, who went wide through turn 1 back behind these two. So it looks like Oye has managed to pull one over on his countryman, but I don't think the battle is over as these two carry on down into yard sale, still defending the inside and the left-hander of 5 for Mick.
And I don't think that's a bad thing to do if you're Mick Claridge. The track naturally feeds you out there. It's kind of the racing line. You might lose a little bit of entry speed going into there to 5, but when you got a car behind you, there's no place that he can go if you park it right there on the middle of the racetrack.
Indeed, he'd have to go the long way around and at turn 5. It's possible. I've seen it done, but it's difficult. And up against someone like Mick Claridge, no doubt he'll make you work for it. As once again, we fly down the main straight, plunging slightly downhill here towards the braking into turn 1. Valenteus, he himself, a very intelligent driver. He's not going to try anything silly right now, and he'll stay behind him.
When you saw Seb Tixier looking to the inside of Nieva, I was the one that's saying Nieva probably had the fastest car, but because of that mistake in turn number 1, I think that he's still trying to catch his breath, and honestly, he's probably just thankful he's still in it because he was incredibly close to going off the racetrack and losing all that track position.
Tixier on board with him, coming down into the break, and you can see them all just letting the car drift off to the left-hand side to try and cover things off a little bit there as he gets very close to the back of Nieva now. Is he trying to set him up? He takes a very different line on entry, coming through the S's, and I can tell you that can make a big difference here. Coming off of it, getting the speed onto the back stretch, but he gets loose and he loses all that time.
Seb is always one of the more fun drivers to watch. He loves driving a loose race car, but here we go down the front straightaway. Valenteus actually has the run. He's side by side with Mick Claridge. Mick has the inside. Valenteus way deep on the brakes. Can he get the car stopped? Joe, we're still side by side on exit.
If he could keep his nose in, he's got a shot into Wagon Bend, and he just might have enough overlap unless Mick covers him off here. No, he can't. He lets him to the inside. The race rages on, coming through the left-hander, and now down into the chute. Are they willing to go wheel-to-wheel through there where it is so rarely side-by-side, almost contacting that they do? They come together, and it is yard sale corner once again. The leaders are off, and Toga Hisada is your new top spot.
Oye Zamayoa is gifted second place. That means Jorge Nieva is now the third place runner. I see Andreas Valenteus back on the racetrack, but he has fallen all the way back to the 10th place position behind the number 6 car of John Olsen.
Hisada picks up the pieces. Zamaloa follows him. Nieva now knows he needs to get back to that position and get himself a potential win to add to his tally and try and challenge potentially for the championship this season. But we've got 4 cars that are in the hunt now. And then Laust Olsen himself is only about a second and a half back, so he could be a part of the picture soon.
I think that Laust Olsen is having a fantastic run. And honestly, Joe, I don't want to talk about him too much because sometimes when we do, he kind of has a tendency to find a wall or give the commentator's curse from us to him. And right now, I see him. What is he running? Top 5. So keep on going out there, Laust.
We'll try to ignore him as best we can in the most polite way. But he has had horrific luck as of late. These top 4, though, is going to be fascinating. We're not even halfway into this race, and suddenly it has been flipped on its head. Hopefully we can get one more look at the replay of the incident if things stay calm here for a bit, because I know you had entered into the chat kind of my feelings on it. I feel like Mick maybe clipped the curb accidentally, and that just kind of it sent him maybe a centimeter too far into his rival.
And I haven't looked at it more than just the one time as we still are live here on the front straightaway, but it was side-by-side racing. Sometimes that happens. It's a really, really narrow racetrack, and here we go. Here's the GSRC replay. Remember, Mick Claridge in the yellow car, Valenteus on the left side, and we're going to see Mick Claridge pretty much clip the apex curb on the right side, and it bounces the car into his competitor, and from there, the contact is made.
Yeah, he's way too shallow. In fact, it's more than the curb. He's up into the grass, and that's probably what did it. I mean, that's hard to judge because how many times are you coming into that corner that shallow?
Well, and you have to trust Valenteus that he's going to leave the entire entry open for you. So when you look at it, Valenteus, I'm sure, is upset that he was taken out. Mick is probably very raising his hand right now saying, hey, that's my bad. But ultimately, it's a racing incident. They were side by side going for the lead.
It's a risk they both decided to take in that moment. And either one could have backed out, but neither did. As Claridge still running, missing a couple parts, unfortunately, and down in 9th.
Well, that gives Togo Hisada all of the clean air. You see Mick Claridge here with that new damage model, missing all of the entire front end on this number 3. And I believe that's the number 6 car of John Olsen that he's defending from here into turn number 1.
Yeah, in fact, I was kind of waiting to see if he was actually defending or if he was going to let him go because he's going to be slow in a straight line. And no, he was defending. He was not going to lift the throttle for John Olsen. And they've raced against one another before, so they do know what they're up against. Meanwhile, farther back in the field, Ben Hackison down here in 22nd is up 15 positions, and he's going to try to take one more off of Cam Porter.
I'm happy that we're highlighting Ben here because I noticed he had the number 12 board, right? And he didn't even qualify, so he started way in the back, and we're getting the images now of Cam Porter live from his sim rig going down into the chute. Got all of that pressure from Ben Hackison right behind him.
Cam's one of those drivers with just a real pleasant disposition about him, but that doesn't mean he is a pushover. He'll still fight, but he's very sensible about how he does it. And he's going to try and hold off Hackison and Salgado in behind them. And Salgado's slightly out of position here. He's lost 8 positions since the start of this race. And I believe Salgado was one of those that was involved in an incident at the start. So he's trying to make up for what he lost.
I know this battle is tight, but I really want to jump up to our lead right now because we were side by side between Zamioa and Hisada going down into turn number 1. And right now, Hisada, Zamioa, Nieva, there's not more than a couple inches between them all.
Yeah, it is closed up significantly, and Tixier is about the only one of these 4 that is not just a papers width apart from all these other cars. And they come up along the back stretch once more. Zamaloa in second. Hisada still holding the lead. So clearly, Oye is willing to try and make some moves here. He feels like he's a little faster than that number 5. Don't think he got a good run there out of the final turn this time as they start to pick up speed. You mentioned 180 miles an hour before they slam on the brakes. And no, we didn't see a move from any of the drivers.
No, of course I say let's look at it, and they kind of spread out, but that last lap, they were literally side by side through this entire section here, but we're coming up on halfway through. We're actually just past halfway through this race, and we haven't really seen the lap traffic yet, Joe. I thought that it would have been here by now. I have a feeling it's going to be soon.
And I did see them lap at least one car. And then Alan Graham, I think, is the next one up. Yeah, they're going to catch him within about a lap, it looks like. Should be on his rear end. And there you can see him flash across the foreground as they weave through the S's. So they'll definitely find him, if not on the front stretch, through this technical back half of the course next lap.
Got my eye on that blue car of Seb Tixier. He's kind of cleaned it up, as well as all four of these front runners kind of equidistant once again, coming out onto the front straightaway. I think if I had to draw something from what I've seen the last 2 laps, Togo Hisada maybe a little bit shaky coming out onto that front straightaway. That might be what's giving the opportunity to the cars behind.
It might just. And Andreas Valenteus with the fastest lap again. He's been charging past a couple cars. He's back into 7th now. And he's got the red mist, no doubt. So I'm sure he's going to be making some fierce moves for the remainder of this race as they all plunge down through the chutes and into turn 5. Once again, nobody really showing themselves quite yet here in this front group, and I was wrong. They're still catching Alan Graham. He's holding his own and has more pace than I anticipated. They are catching him, but they are not to the gearbox quite yet.
I'm just really impressed with the racing from these top 4. I mean, even throw Laust Olsen in there, who's still giving chase back there in 5th place, but it stretches out a little bit, and then it accordions right back up, and here we go out at turn number 10. Togo Hisada once again kind of drives it up on those exit curbs, and the number 2 car of Oye just a little bit faster down the front straightaway.
Thought maybe he'd try something, but Hisada kind of drifts over a little bit to try and dissuade him from doing anything down into turn 1. Behind them, I can report Valenteus is now up to 6. He just got by Sequeiro. Also, Hackison, who we were just praising before, unfortunately has spun off the course in his attempts to pass Cam Porter. He's fallen all the way down to 29th, so he's lost quite a bit of track position from that error as the 4 once again running their train up at the front. But how long will it remain in this order as they now go by the lap traffic?
I think now is when those cards are going to start to fall on which drivers are going to be a little bit more aggressive with the lap traffic, which ones are going to kind of be a little bit easier and nicer to their competitors out on the racetrack. But one thing's for sure, if you want to collect a win, you gotta be fast. And David Rossi back here in the 16th place position, having an incident, I believe, with another car.
Yeah, that's another moment in yard sale, and that was with Räikkönen, unfortunately. Very similar situation. They do give each other space, but not hitting the curb there this time. Instead, it was Rossi going too deep into the corner, couldn't get it slowed up in time. Couldn't tell from that angle if he was given enough space, though. And whatever the case, they wound up coming together.
Probably have a little bit of a better view of it right here. That's exactly what happens. And
he wasn't given space.
No, he definitely wasn't given space, and we won't know if he was going to be able to stop the car in time or not because of it.
I mean, yeah, it could have been that they're both in the wrong there. An accident was going to happen no matter what, but it's sad to see since both were having a good battle up to that point. We come back to the leaders once more. Zamaloa got close again, but couldn't quite sneak by Hisada. Nieva and Tixier still remain in 3rd and 4th. They are dropping Laust Olsen now. He's down to about 3 seconds behind them. This is a much better run from Oye, and Togo Hisada knew it immediately. He switches off to the right-hand side of the track to try and see if he can defend, but they're going to be wheel-to-wheel as they hit the brakes down into turn 1. Round the outside, can Zamaloa get his second ever win in the series? He's going to give it a right try.
And this is almost like deja vu from what we saw the leaders beforehand. Now into turn number 3. And Togo Hisada pinches the nose. That's going to open the door for Jorge Nieva and Seb Tixier to go around Oye.
Zamaloa drifting through turn 3, has to give it up eventually. Tixier picks him off with his wheels in the grass as well, down through the chute. That was the match that lit the fire. We were waiting for things to change there for so long, and that's all it took.
Oh my goodness, and now we got Jorge Nieva back in that 2nd place position, and remember, Nieva was all over the gearbox of Hisada for the first handful of laps. Well, He's made his way back there, and look at this. We finally have that busy racetrack that we've been talking so much about.
Oh, this is going to shake things up even more. I want to give credit to Oye for that catch through Wagon Bend as well. I thought he was going to be gone, but he somehow gathered the car up. Someone going off to the side to let them through. Kurt Clapper going to allow our leaders to try and navigate without interrupting the fight. Now it's Jem Matson in front of them.
And Seb Tixier, I mean, we've mentioned the name a handful of times, but he has gone up 4 positions from where he started. And we always say big movers, up 10, up 15, but up 4 at the sharp end of the field is no easy feat.
And in fact, that's what Hisada has done here, as well as Seb Tixier, both of them really doing a fantastic job. I thought that qualifying didn't quite look how it should from Togo. He's usually a little faster than where he placed himself. Jem Matson almost got shoved off to the side by Zamaloa there as the leaders eventually got through without incident.
Well, and I don't blame Zamaloa at all because he's got to keep up with this front group here, and if he lets off, he's simply going to lose that draft train as the leaders come out on to start finish. But something I saw, Joe, is Zamaloa, something about the fast sweeping corners, maybe the differential, he's just able to really finish the corner in comparison to Togo Hisada. That's what was allowing him to get that run down the front straightaway.
Had a strange incident through the chute with David Rossi and Räikkönen once again. This time, though, only Rossi came out on the worst of it. I'm not sure if we'll have a replay of that or not, but it's put him out of the race. Going on by another of our lapped cars. I also see Sequeiro dropping down the order, so he must have had a problem. I think there's a crest that we're going to see heading into the chute, because from my angle, it looked very, very strange, but this should hopefully show it better. Rossi's in the red car on the right.
That's exactly what happens here. Oh.
Yeah, I think he got loose.
Yeah, well, what happens, that crest you were talking about, Joe, if you have a gear change or even some wheel spin, it's what caught David Rossi out, and he almost collected the competitor as well.
Yeah, I mean, at first glance, I was worried that he was taking some sort of retaliation, but yeah, look at him countersteer. He's going, no.
Yeah, well, it was the crest combined with him not being in the right place on the road. You're right. It was just an odd place. And actually, Valenteus here, we're riding on board with them, goes up the inside of Laust Olsen. So move him up back inside the top 5.
Now he's got some work to do. 3 seconds to catch up to Oye Zamaloa. But when he does that, if he does that, then he's caught up to the top 4, and he's back in the hunt for the win. It's 8 laps to go. He's going to have to really hustle. He has been putting down the fastest laps. I don't know if he can do it, but I don't know if I would put money on it.
If there was no other cars on the track, I would say no. There's no way that he can do it. However, with lap traffic and also 4 different cars battling for the lead, all it takes is some side-by-side racing, and you're right, Valenteus might have a shot at it on the last lap.
I'm sure he's going to be pushing like hell to try and catch up to them and see if he can somehow pull a win out of the hat. But even if he catches them, he's got to pass 4 cars to then take the lead back. So it's a long shot. Speaking of the lead, we got to go back to it now, because another defensive move from Togo Hisada down to the inside of turn 1. Nieva has got him worried. He's going to cut back underneath, but there's no space.
There's just something about Togo Hisada in turn number 10 that aren't getting along. And that is really costing him. He's got to go defensive so often down onto the front straightaway. Then it accordions up back behind him, going down into turn 3, 4, 5 here into the chute. Always has to be looking in your mirrors. It's never a fun way to drive a race when you're having all of that anxiety behind you.
I almost wonder, since this is an open setup, if maybe the gearing that Togo has put into it just isn't as good, getting the grunt off the corner or through the corner. I know in a number of cars, I've always felt like it's an awkward decision which gear to be in through there.
And I don't know how much you can change in the differentials in these cars.
It's big.
Yeah, oftentimes sweeping corners, long sweeping corners, being able to finish them is simply a differential click or 2.
Many years ago, that was the first thing that they'd advise you to try and change, as Tixier versus Zamaloa is back together once again, with Zamaloa around the outside coming down at a turn one. Also, the battle for the lead almost goes side by side, almost coming together, in fact. Little bit of a touch between Nieva and Hisada, but the long way around for Zamaloa, fending off Seb Tixier, making the overtake, has put himself into third.
Great job from that white number 2 car, and now he sets his sights on Nieva, who actually had a little bit of a hiccup coming out of that wagon bend, turn number 3. Gets it all collected. Actually, Tixier in a little bit deep, has to avoid Oye right in front of him there. But, guys, 5.5 laps left remaining, and given that we're only doing about a lap a minute, it's going to go by fast.
But hopefully if they'll stay quiet for at least just a little moment. I can tell you that one of the things that back when I still raced this car, a lot of the stuff that they would advise newcomers on is to try and get the differential to where it feels comfortable for you, both on acceleration and braking. It's a huge part of getting this car in the sweet spot.
And it will help basically on corner entry and corner exit. It helps drive the car through the corner, so you can either loosen it up so the car can turn a little bit better going into the corner, or you can really tighten the thing up so that way on exit, when you roll onto the throttle, it finishes turning the corner for you. You have to manage that oversteer, though.
Joey, that gap of 3 seconds from Valenteus to Tixier, it's down to 1.5 seconds already.
Well, that is amazing. A 108.4 from Valenteus, close to his fastest lap of the race. Compare that to a 109.4 from Seb Tixier right in front of him. And the traffic, whoo, here it comes.
Someone having an off there, coming through the S's and facing the wrong way. And that was Hashimoto, who's going to get it whip-turned around and back on the tracks. Thankfully, nobody has an incident there. More lap traffic in front of them as we watch from the perspective of our former leader and onto the main straight. Don't think he's quite going to catch them here.
No, he's not, but he can see that blue car of Seb Tixier going back and forth down the front straightaway. All he's got to do is buy Jonathan Jordan right
that's
here.
Hisada. Hisada just went off. Hisada went deep into the first corner. He's going to lose the lead. Nieva is up to the top spot, and now Tixier is going to try to take third away from the Japanese driver. Can't quite get there. They're still close together, though.
Oh, but it stacks everybody up, and here comes Valenteus right into the party. He's still got the one lapped car in between him. We got a car stopped on the left side. They're going to stream by it, but here we go. Now the number 1 car is freed up, and he's only half a second behind these leaders.
I'd say we can claim that he's caught them now at this point. It is now a 5-car battle for the lead. An uncommon mistake from Togo Hisada has gifted the lead to Jorge Nieva. We said it's down to consistency, and it might just come true here for the number 4.
He had one little mistake early on in the race, but ever since then has collected everything, has driven incredibly nice out there, and now we only got 3 laps remaining as they cross the start-finish line.
4 to go with immense pressure. Zamaloa behind Valenteus, who looks lightning fast today, breathing down his neck. 3 laps to go. Can he manage to hold off 4 different drivers for these laps?
And I gotta wonder, what is the headspace of Valenteus right here? Is he angry? Is he having the red mist that he's just going to go up and throw some moves at Seb Tixier in the front? Or has he said, you know what, I'm okay. We can go out there and still collect a podium and be nice, calm, and collected? We're about to find out.
Yeah, I think it'll be a very quick answer on this one because, like we said, he's caught them. It's down to within less than half a second. If he gets a good enough run, he could make a move if he feels willing. We come around to the final corner, and Nieva leads ahead of Zamaloa. Hisada still on the podium after his hiccup, and probably wanting to also make up for it himself. He could try and take this win back, but he's going to have to be fierce.
And you see Hisada just kind of losing a little bit of ground down the front straightaway. Valenteus with another fastest lap as he continues to close it down on Tixier right in front of him. Oh, Zamayoa, though, he's got a mistake coming out of turn number 2, trying to put the power down there side by side with himself and Hisada into 3.
Had a big wiggle, couldn't get the power down. Hissata the long way around a wagon bend, and he makes it stick. What a power move from the number 5. He's back in a second with 2 laps to go. Could he try and get that lead back? Meanwhile, behind them, Valenteus is starting to make some moves. He looks around the outside of Seb Tixier.
And honestly, if I am Nieva, I am loving what I am seeing behind. I know that Togo Hissata is one of the fastest drivers on the racetrack, but really, from what I've seen, turn 10 is his weakest point, and once again, through a fast sweeping corner, just loses ground on the exit.
Car unhappy around the swift turns here that they have available to them, and onto the main straight once again. He is nowhere, just cannot get the throttle down. Zamaloa trying to see if he could use this to his advantage. Also back there, Valenteus and Tixier taking big looks too deep into the corner, and off goes Zamaloa. He is out of this race.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he's got some suspension damage, but it's still Nieva leading Hissata. Seb Tixier now in that third and final podium position. Valenteus giving chase in fourth. Can Togo Hissata throw something together here?
Togo's lucky he doesn't have suspension damage as well. Clip that right rear tire hard. Another look from Tixier, but chopped off at the apex with just enough space between them. Hissata will hold off the current reigning champion. Now Jorge Nieva just has a few corners to go. He knows he's going to be stronger. Off the final turn, he opens the door a little bit for Togo, but he can't get through.
That was what he did last time. All he's got to do is make it through turn number 10. Valenteus, a little bit of contact with Tixier. They both go off the track, but it is the run to start finish between Nieva and Hissata. Nieva going to claim the checkered flag.
Another win for Jorge Nieva. Hissata in second, and Laust Olsen will claim the podium because of the tangle between Valenteus and Tixier. Seb, hot under the collar over the radio, it sounded like, did not appreciate the move. We'll need a replay because I did not even get a chance to look at it much. I was so focused on those top 2.
I love the result for Laust Olsen there as we get the GSRC replay. Now watch Valenteus, this fourth car line. Tixier knows he's got a poor run, and I just think maybe a little bit of a misjudgment. You see the 2 cars in front of him going side by side, or at least showing the nose, and we talked about it all race. It is so narrow, and that is a funnel on entry into turn 10.
Wow, we got a cracker of a race here today. It might be a little track, but it puts on a good show, even in these higher-powered cars, especially, I'd say, in these higher-powered cars, with the number 4 taking the victory. That's going to take us to a quick break. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so stick around. The third round of the season sees the third ever win for Jorge Nieva in this championship, and he took it by a tenth of a second over Togo Hisada. A simple slip up into turn one for the number 5 gave away what could have been a win for Togo, who comes away in P2. And Laust Olsen sneaks through onto the podium after it was a tangle in front of him into the final turn. Adrius Valenteus, 4th, and Seb Tixier in 5th were squabbling for that P3, and both wound up off the podium. Oya Zamaloa was in 6th today, with Mick Claridge finishing 7th. He also tangled with Valenteus, so a bit of a messy one, unfortunately, for Adrius over the course of the race. Bill Tyler was 8th, and John Olsen 9th, with Jeff Saunders finishing 10th.
Then we have Robert Plumley in the 11th place position, Steve Morris in 12th, Matthew Maudsley in 13th, Mitch Heller in 14th, Jari Sakarin Rokkanen in 15th, Marco Antonio Lopez Salgado in 16th, and Kevin Verbruggen in 17th, Rolly Wallbank back here in 18th, Leo Sequeiro in 19th, and Jan Steven in 20th.
Cam Porter, 21st, is then followed by Arnold Cook in 22nd, Andre Bruno, 23rd. Don Peake climbing 6 positions up for a quiet 24th on the lead lap, and Paul Farah, the last one on that lead lap, in 25th. Ben Hackison, who was on his way climbing up, got set backwards. He had 11 gained in 26. He was beat by Paul Farah, who gained 16. Jonathan Jordan was 27th, and Eugenio Massa 28th. And it was Jim Matson 29th, and 30th goes to Kurt Clapper.
Alan Graham back here in 31st did take the checkered flag, and then we have a bunch of cars that did not finish. Michael Grissinger, Alejandro Fernandez, Yoshiharu Hashimoto. But then David Rossi did get back out onto the racetrack to finish in 36. And the other one that saw the checkered flag was Jorge Lopez Izquierdo back there in 37th position.
All right. Looks like we've got our winner ready to talk to us. Jorge Nieva taking the victory here today. Jorge, congratulations. It was funny because at the start of the race, we mentioned this track could throw a loop, everybody for a loop.
I started 3rd, then I was 5th for a couple laps of the race and finished winning without making a single overtake. So yeah, I think that was on consistency.
What kind of mental space were you in, though, at the second half of the race? You find yourself in the lead, and you've got fast drivers, you've got multi-time champions all behind you looking to try and take that win away. I mean, what was it like trying to defend for that long?
Well, I was especially careful at the carousel, and I think Seb had a much faster line there, and I was afraid that he could punt me because he was making that turn very, very much faster than me, but I managed to, well, he managed to avoid me, and I needed to make a consistent line, and I thought Togo could overtake me on that last turn because I made it very, very bad, but he had to slow down too much to not hit me, so I was lucky, I think.
Well, and talking about that last turn, we noticed that it seemed like Togo Hisada had a hard time really getting speed off that turn. Had you picked up on that, and did that make you feel safer into turn one ahead of him?
I appreciated the Togo slipstream when Neuer was behind me because I think I could keep that position thanks to him, and when Togo was behind, I was a little bit safer because I think he made that last turn a bit worse than Neuer or Seb, but I wasn't sure he couldn't pass because you can always make a mistake, and like he did on turn one, I could make the same.
Well, it's been a great start to the season for you. Congratulations on win number 3.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. See you next week. I hope.
I hope so as well. Jorge Nieva, also our points leader now because of that victory. It looks like up next, Joey has caught up with Togo Hisada.
Togo Hesada, congratulations on second place, albeit maybe a little bit bittersweet. How do you feel today?
No, I just, I'm full of sweat. Yeah, I would say the last week. Yeah, I said, the some point is not a great track for me. A little bit slow, a little bit not good on track every time. So this time, yeah, just qualifying my best time, but it's the 5th place. But unfortunately, the in cold tires, somehow my braking is good in turn 1, and I make some move under the Mick and the Valentius, collide just front of me, so the unfortunately took the first place, but the pace is terrible, so the just blocking everyone from behind, so it's very tough one.
So you had a very busy race, whether it was moving up forward positions or people in your mirror right behind you. One thing that I noticed was the final turn number 10. Were you struggling there? Because it seemed like everybody could get off of that exit a little bit better than you could.
Yeah, I hate last turn. Simply my skills problem, somehow this track is not suit for me, and struggling. Yeah, you say, you correct. Struggling every lap, and trying to find the correct line in the breaking point, but it's not good at all. So that's why.
Well, you don't mesh with Summit Point. What about Winton Motor Raceway next week for you guys?
I have no idea. I have no idea. I never listed in Lotus 49 at the Winton Motor Speedway, I think, and that is the first time. I think that will be the first time. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
I think it's really cool that these Lotus 49s go to places like Summit Point, go to places like Willow Springs and Winton. So it's kind of like all these curveballs thrown at you guys to keep the challenges up. But before I let you go, is there anybody you want to give a shout out to?
Lotus 49 community under the GSRC broadcast team.
Well, that was Togo Hesada collecting his breath still after a second place finish today.
Well, a driver that's probably still trying to figure out how he wound up here, Laust Olsen. Laust, we didn't talk about you as much. Could you tell on this one?
Yeah, it was quite a race. It seemed like I couldn't really keep up with the guys in front, but them fighting kept me within. I could still see them up front. Had a good fight with Seb in the start. I really had to fight for keeping my position there. Later on, I made it a little too easy for him by overshooting T1, but in a way I didn't expect to finish before him anyway, so that was okay. And by the end of the race, I was thinking they were quite up in front, and then suddenly it all exploded, and I gained 3 positions or more. So that was a nice surprise in the end.
Well, it seemed like this track did prove to be a little bit difficult to keep the car on for some drivers. What did it feel like out there? Because we could see them dancing around on the bumps.
Yeah, it's a fun little track to drive, and the car is really alive, and there's a lot of places. For instance, T1 accelerating out of there. Really have to be careful on the throttle, otherwise the rear end just steps away. So it requires a lot of. I would say you have to be careful not to be too eager on the loud pedal, otherwise you end up where you don't want to end up.
Well, I don't know what ritual you pulled out to try and finally get luck your way, since it's kind of not been going your way for so long, but are you going to repeat whatever you did this time to see if you could have it next time at Winton?
Oh, I will, yes, of course. I'm not sure what I'm doing, but something is going quite okay this season, so I hope to to keep that streak going. That would be nice.
We'll look out for you, and congratulations on a podium.
Thank you.
Laust Olsen finishing third here today, which I think is going to wrap us up for this morning's broadcast. So we want to give a big thank you to the Lotus 49 community as well. Also, thanks to the team today, Rob, Joey, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, our website, and our merchandise store. But also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment. Like we've been saying, next race going to be down under at Winton, Saturday, January 6th, the first Grand Prix Legends race in 2024. And it'll be at 8:30 a.m. Eastern. Be sure to check out our other broadcasts, because up next, the IMSA Vintage Series goes to the brand new Mugello at noon Eastern today. Until next time, though, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.